Hey guys, on today's episode of the Kansai Collective, we talk with Seval, joining us from... Hello.
Darling.
From Hello Darling, a boutique here in Osaka. Tune in this episode to learn more about fashion, her kind of upbringing and starting a business in Japan, sense of community, good, negative community, and a lot more in this episode of the Kansai Collective.
Kansai Collective. West side of Japan, we out here coolin', Zane and Nessa got connections. We know you got questions. Ain't no need to worry, got you.
And good morning, welcome to another episode of the Kansai Collective. We got another full studio here in the house, full as in a couple people going on, but we're getting some regulars in the building. Jayla seems to be making himself a little home over in the corner. Nothing wrong with that. Zane, how you feeling, brother?
I'm feeling good. It's a bit rainy though. It was raining all yesterday, and when you ride a bike,
Wet.
Oh my god! But you know what's a good thing is you go to Lawson, they are now selling clothes, and they got really cool socks and shirts. Man, I bought a shirt yesterday, and they surprised me because the quality was much better than I thought. A convenience store.
You heard it here
Clothing
first.
maybe.
Japanese convenience stores, the new plug for clothes.
Oh, I'm sorry, not Lawson, Family Mart.
Family Mart. Oh,
Sorry.
you plugged the wrong one.
Yeah,
Now
Family
we're-
Mart.
Now we're never going to get that Family Mart
And
sponsor.
yo, you know what's so crazy? There's this new because every season they have certain foods, right, that are like fresh, and they have now is sweet potato season, and they have these sweet potato chips at Family Mart. Yo, I will invest in y'all. Keep those all
Zayd
year
is
round.
The free PR for the sweet potato.
Yo, they're so good. Sweet potato chips, and they don't have any additives in it. So for me,
Zane's
it's
excited.
a plus.
As always, good morning, everyone. It's Asa Questenberry. Joining me, my
And I have some
co-host,
Judo.
Zane.
Judo. Do you know what Judo is, bro?
Al Blue Jiro. Shidon. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
It's like a blue. It's a really green juice. It has many different greens in it.
Healthy.
Yes.
It's like
that's
a
what
kale.
That's what you drink in the morning, people.
Or for normal people, we drink coffee. Either or, whatever works for you.
But yo, what's up? It's your boy Zane, live in the Kansai, and
There we go.
have a very beautiful guest today.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy
not
you
a
think
guest.
that.
You're not a
Good morning.
guest.
Please introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Seval, and I'm really excited to be here doing this podcast with you two. It's a very special
Here,
experience.
let's ask Tomo. Tomo, where do you think Seval is from?
What do you think? Let's play Guess That Ethnicity. Dun, 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 dun.
There's no wrong answer.
Somewhere.
Outside of Asia.
Outside of
Obviously.
Asia.
That's
Obviously.
good. That's a good start.
He's dialing it in.
Cool.
And
then
I'll say
He's
you
on the
have
spot.
you
You
have
guys can't-
friends. I'll say
you
you have
guys
friends
can't
from
see
this
him.
area.
Don't be fooled by my hairstyle.
you can't see him. He's on the spot.
for me.
The hair.
I guess somewhere Europe.
Europe? Okay,
Europe
that doesn't
and-
help. You
All
said
right, it
not
rhymes
Asia.
with E.
E. Confusion from the studio audience.
From everyone.
From everyone here.
Wait.
What country rhymes with?
Where are you from?
Europe was not a bad guess. So
You got to guess. Come on, dial it in.
Okay.
I'll say football, soccer, and maybe
That's the whole
I don't know.
continent.
No, that's true.
That's the whole continent.
That's
Football
true.
and soccer. Come on, Tomo, give us one
You
guess.
have a friend. You have a friend that is from there.
If I say beer, you know.
Okay.
You got to pick. Come on.
Estonia.
Estonia.
Oh, beer and soccer. I didn't know, but
Estonia.
no, I'm too short for Estonia. I think.
And the answer is, Seval, where are you from?
I was born and raised in Germany.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that.
And I say that because my parents are from Turkey. We are Kurdish, which makes it a little bit more complicated. But I consider myself, because I was born and raised in Europe and Germany. So in Japan, I say I'm from Germany.
But ethnically Turkish. Kurdish.
Kurdish.
Kurdish, right? Do you
Kurdish.
speak Kurdish? Probably.
No, I know when there is a secret going on in the family, because that's when they all turn
Suddenly
to
everyone's
Kurdish.
speaking Kurdish again.
We
what
always
is
spoke
Kurdish?
Turkish.
I'm sorry. What is Kurdish?
Kurdish is ethnicity, basically. It's a philosophy more than
Ooh. I like
it's-
philosophy.
Jumping in.
basically what my tribe, so to speak, believes in is it's humanism. So we believe everything good and everything bad lies within yourself, and you choose who you want to be.
T-shirt time. T-shirt time. Put it on the T-shirt.
Gem drop.
Excellent. Well,
I
thanks,
don't know,
Seval.
I don't want anyone to be upset about my way of explaining Alevi Kurdish, but that's how
Hey,
I
Do you
feel
feel
about
like
it.
that has shaped your perception today?
Yes, I didn't know how much it has until just, with this business that I've built, how much I realized I need community. Because Kurdish people don't have a country, what unites them is the feeling of community, I think.
Love
And
it.
so I noticed how important it is to me and how I grew up. And the more I missed it here, the more I realized that's what I
I'm
want
sorry.
to have.
I just want to get into the juicy stuff.
Yeah.
Before we get into the juicy stuff, if you guys like our episode and you guys want to support, head on over to our Patreon.
Please.
Drop a subscribe, drop comments. We can keep bringing you guys some fantastic Kansai here in the Kansai as well. Thank you to our sponsors, Tomo the Deck here in Osaka, for giving us this
Deck.
lovely studio.
Thank you.
Have
Hinomaru with the swag, Aaron,
see
our
it, it's
producer,
on me.
Edge Wilderness, bringing you some outdoor equipment, and Skyscape Kawashigaisha with some interesting news coming soon. But had to get
Yeah.
that out before we jump into the
Nah,
juicy
that's
deets.
fine. That's definitely important. But I just want to get into, okay, like when you said community, when you were younger, what did you experience where community, like you felt like you were part of the community, or like why it has such an influence on you?
Well, again, I think it was more something that I realized when I look back on how my parents were in the neighborhood, like just really always helping each other, having a really good connection with the neighbors in our area. We were foreigners, but we were okay. The Germans in the area felt like they can connect with us. When somebody needed something, we were always there. If an older lady can't go shopping anymore, you just take her by car. Or
Just
I
support the
remember
community.
that a lot of people stayed at our home who had like DV experience, or women who didn't know where to go, and they stayed often in my room because we lived in a very small apartment. But like sometimes there were people who stayed in our house. Just
That's
because
crazy.
we-
So your parents were pretty like open and, yeah. Why was that normal?
Community-oriented.
Was that normal for people to do that? Like,
I think it was maybe part of like, being there for each other is always an important thing. And we have a bit of maybe it reminds a little bit of the Native Americans as well. Like the elders, when there is a problem in the family, the elders come together and try to find a solution, or, family always has to stick together. It's not like that anymore because, it's hard to keep it up. But it was like that when I was a child, and we often got together, and when there was a problem, it was supposed to be solved by everyone together.
oh, really?
Yeah.
And-
I see. Okay.
I was gonna ask
Not
if you
that they
feel
were very
here.
good at solving the problems, but
But they had to come together
yes,
for it.
they had to come again.
I feel like it's good. Like that's a good way of approaching it, and there's like negative sides of that because, I love being American, and like you have that individuality. But I see like here in Japan, they are very into a communicative like type of social society. So like if one person stands out, then they're kind of like shamed or bashed, and, and they could be someone that could really, blossom into something beautiful. Do you feel like in your neighborhood, in your community, was it, did it hurt people's growth, or was it like?
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're talking about how, like, with Japan's community focus, it can be really negative at times.
Yeah, because like
And not supportive, really.
exactly, because everyone's just basing their answer on whatever everyone else is saying. Do you?
Because you don't want to stick out.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
right.
I think the way I experienced it was more being inclusive, like being tolerant towards others. I think because we are not Muslims, but in our community where I grew up, there were lots of Turkish people who were Muslims. my mom always made sure to celebrate Ramadan with them, but we never really experienced it the other way around. But my mom always made sure that we tolerate other people's beliefs, and so it felt rather inclusive. And I always feel like, especially my mom was always someone who was ready to challenge herself, and like developing was okay, like being able to express
Like in any
yourself.
individual way that you
Right.
would want.
So
But there are problems too. I mean, in the end, you grow up as a Turkish or Kurdish girl in a country that has a different culture. Like having a boyfriend was difficult.
oh
or-
really?
Yeah, and those kind of things were difficult again. It wasn't like peace and all the time, all the good things.
But you bring up such a good point, man, because we don't like. I've never even thought about that. Where how Japan is an extremely community-focused country, but we often see so many of it. Like a lot of the negative stereotypes of Japan come from that community focus. Like you don't want to stand out, you don't want to think against the crowd, things like that. Whereas listening to how Seval explained, it's like that community focus and where she was from and how she was raised had a lot of positive, but of course not all positive.
Yeah.
But super super interesting point to make.
Yo, so what were some similarities of like community based thinking in Germany and community based thinking in Japan? Like, is it similar? Because how long have you been in Japan?
I try to forget about it, but I think it's been 14, 15 years now.
Woo, we got an OG in the building.
Oh no!
OG. But okay, so you've been here for 14 years.
Yes.
I've been here for 7. Ace has been here for 4.
4 years.
4 years. So
You're the
we've all
baby.
experienced how it's great to be in a community. Like I know when I first came to Japan, you go to a party, and at the end of the party, everybody cleans up. It's not just the person who throws the party. That was huge, really cool insight for me. But like, do you see any other like similarities in like the community, like what it means to have a community in Germany and what it means to have a community in Japan?
Oh man, I never thought about it like that. Because for me, the feeling of community was a little bit. It actually started a little bit with Donald Trump's presidency, because
The Donald.
sorry,
Make America
just
great
felt
again.
can't believe I bring him up, but I just thought back then how depressed I was watching the news all the time, like what's becoming of the world, and like it's a out of control feeling, and I care about politics, so for me that time was when I realized I can't change anything about what's happening in the world, but I can change things that are happening around me in my local area. Yeah,
Gem drop.
and going back to in my building, I care about saying good morning to the person who is in the elevator with me. Or
Do they say good morning back to you?
now they do.
Okay, because no one answers me when I
Right.
say it. It's
Just keep going.
I know.
Yeah.
I say it to the old people in my apartment, and they just stare at me.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
so-
And
Frustrating.
it's not easy, but I think from building to building that's also different, but just like making each other smile with small things or helping each other out in the neighborhood, and then going a little bit more into the business that I want to do and including different kinds of mindsets and
Facts.
and when you say community, I can see how sometimes, especially here in Japan, I find it sometimes more exclusive. Like, for example, certain groups, and it becomes a group, and they don't really, like, maybe the vegan community can be so interesting if you could understand things better, and it would be more inclusive. But I feel like sometimes it's either this or not at all.
You're either in or you're not.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Okay.
so
Have you live in Osaka, correct? Right.
right.
Where else have you lived in Japan?
Oh, just Osaka.
Just Osaka.
I
Swag.
moved a lot in Osaka.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite place you've lived in Osaka? Which area?
My area now, where I live, is Tenroku.
Tennoku.
Right next to Tanimachi.
Yeah. Tanimachi-san, yay.
I thought, are we going for a high five there? Or what?
No, I was just excited for Tanimachi. I am a Tanimachi
Tennoku.
fanatic.
Tennoku. Okay, you guys. So that's what, east side of Osaka, a little south, north of Tennoji, of course.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, north, but this
Yeah,
way.
I'm not big with that either.
Me too,
so,
me too.
What?
Well, yeah.
Doxing where you're at.
There's
the
a
map.
river.
There's a river.
Yeah.
There's a river. All right, we won't go into too many more details.
But anywho, back to the community thing. What is the business that you do, Seval?
So what I do right now is a small select used vintage clothing and decor shop called Hello Darling.
Hello, darling.
Yeah. And
That's the most lovely name of a shop I've ever heard.
Look at her. Look at that smile.
She's like,
Hello,
you bet,
darling.
yeah, you
Hello,
bet
darling.
it's hello, darling. Oh, very catchy.
Hold on. What is darling like? Like, what is the image you get when you say darling? Because, like, for me, darling is like, I don't know, like a cute.
Darling is a lovely name to call a girl. nowadays.
Darling?
Darling?
I feel like men are called darling.
I think it can be
Exactly, and that's
unisex.
it,
Yeah,
right?
it can be unisex.
I'm-
I imagine the big, like, you know when people go to the
that's
Kentucky
true.
Derbies and they get like the girls with those big hats, the Kentucky Derby. When someone says darling,
Oh,
I
yeah.
just think like big fluffy hat. and
I've
dress.
never watched the Kentucky Derby.
On a totally random like spin, like the Kentucky Derby has become such like a cultural thing where it's not even about betting horses anymore. It's about like just dressing up, and they got like
Oh, right.
LeBron James and all these other people going at like, yeah, it's just like a day event these days. But
Okay.
anyway, so Hello Darling, tell us about Hello Darling.
So Hello Darling was when I grew up, I really, really liked classic Hollywood movies, and so I think of the Cary Grant saying, or Katharine Hepburn said hello or darling a lot, or Audrey Hepburn. And when I went to, long time ago, when I went to Sydney, Australia, and I went to a flea market there was this lady who approached me in the sweetest way. She was in her 40s, and she said, "Hello, darling, how are you today?" And I thought,
Yeah,
that
it's
is
very
such a
sweet.
sweet way.
I'm gonna put that on a shop.
All right.
And didn't know that back then, but I thought it's a warm, inviting, welcoming
Facts. Okay.
way to greet someone. And plus, it's unisex. It's like anyone you like, and somebody who likes to give advice. Maybe it doesn't really matter. Darling
Maybe that's
is
how we
such
should
a
start
nice
greeting
word.
everyone on the show now.
Yay,
Welcome to
darling.
the show, darling.
Hey, darling.
Yay.
I feel like, see, I can't say darling though because I'm just so tempted to just add like an unnecessary accent to it, like
Yeah,
like
right.
subconsciously,
Now we have
I'm
to
like,
hear it.
hello, darling, hello, darling. I don't know, I can't even get it, but I just
Kentucky
want to. I
Derby
want
one.
to say it.
Yeah. So, how did you even get into vintage, like starting a business in Japan with vintage clothing?
I think for me it started more with like what I didn't want to do anymore
Okay.
in Japan, because
Great starting point.
yeah, I when I came here I thought I'd be here for just 1 year, and then 1 year became 15 years because I met my husband, and then
Darling.
my darling.
You met your darling.
Because
And
Japanese
then-
people say that too.
Yeah, but the older people say that. I think they connected a little bit more to Showaera, I think.
okay.
where they all-
I don't know that Japanese word. You gotta.
Darling, like they say, my
I
darling.
don't know.
Darling.
They connected to show what?
It's like it's more older. I think older people
Darling.
connected more.
Darling. Darling.
Yeah.
I've never heard darling.
Maybe 80s.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not anymore. It's there's a different
Right.
connotation.
Uh,
I saw. Not with my husband though. He doesn't.
so 1 year turned into a marriage business, and 15 years later.
But then I was always an instructor. I was teaching German and English, and I did enjoy teaching, but it wasn't something that I felt like I want to do.
Did not
till I-
align with your passions. I'm
Right.
with you.
And I didn't know what my passions are because you're stuck in that kind of bubble.
Big facts.
As a foreigner, you're in here because that's one of the only jobs you can do. And so I think I ended up having a bit of a midlife crisis, thinking, oh, this is not what I want to continue doing. And then I decided, with the support of my husband, to quit my job. I was I was a manager at an Eikaiva, and I didn't enjoy the sales part much. I didn't enjoy the competition part. I didn't enjoy this,
I don't know how it
go
was
for
for
the
you, but like,
sales.
I think
which-
for me, because I think so many people have taught, like for me, I didn't mind the teaching, but it was the corporate aspect of the teaching. It was going to like some little old lady that can barely order a coffee and being like, well, you've got nothing to do but spend money. You should buy the most advanced English. Like knowing that it's like just like to get more sales. That's the part for me that I couldn't like, just wasn't easy doing.
I think for me it was more, it wasn't teaching, it was service. Like it was, if you teach, you can also sometimes say, hey, you really gotta do this. But it was more like, would you mind learning a little bit more? And it's more, service rather
Makes
than
it worth
really
it.
education or teaching or, so I couldn't do that any longer. And then I read a book. It's always nice how things fly into your way when you need something. And I read a book that said, the title was like, What Makes Your Heart Sing? And so I started to write down notes, what kind of things make me happy. And things like community came up, things like, I remembered my mom, she used to be a cleaning lady for different people in our village. And when I was a child, I used to go with her. I tried to help, but I was useless, I think, because I just ended up looking at all these rich houses and the libraries they had and the beautiful furniture. And I just, like, every house was so different and every person was so different. And I really, really enjoyed thinking back of, like, how interior was something I always enjoyed a lot, and beautiful objects and items and the stories behind it. And I actually ended up, at university I studied history and political science, so I liked the stories behind things. And that's where I thought of, like, I want to do something along those lines. And I had a friend who I approached. I asked her, because she was into fashion, if we wanted to do something along those lines together. And she agreed. She had so much more experience in fashion and sales than I did. But then she left. We started as a pop-up shop. She left for Tokyo. And
This is the girl I met, right?
huh?
This is the girl that I met.
Yeah,
when
I don't know.
The Japanese lady.
Yeah,
that
maybe.
was working with you.
Yeah,
She
Kazumi.
was, I forgot her name, but she was good with sales.
Oh no, that's another lady.
Oh,
I think
okay.
you've never met my first partner.
Oh, okay.
And then then we split, and I decided to try Hello Darling on my own, and then go into more clothes as well.
Was it Hello Darling at the time that it was you and your friend? Was it always Hello Darling?
It was always Hello Darling.
Okay. So, I mean, and I'm just curious because I think most of the time when you hear about partners in business splitting, it's usually for, bad reasons. Was it like a messy split, or was it your friend just like, I got stuff I want to do in Tokyo, and it was like a mutual decision, or was it like kind of a rough situation splitting it?
It was a mutual decision, but I think because she didn't feel like she could express her way, and I didn't know what my way was. And I think it was difficult for her to express herself in that way. And so she thought she could do probably better on her own. And she left me the decision whether I wanted to continue Hello Darling on my own or not. And then when we decided, like, after all the support we got from so many people, I really don't want to give up on this idea.
Dope, right? All the support, man.
Yeah.
Let me jump on that. Like, business, especially when you started on your own, it's very scary.
Yeah.
And you're taking this unknown path, but you have people around you that are like, yo, you can do this,
Yeah.
and the support is huge, right? It doesn't have to be financially, but even just, saying things like, yo, you can do this, your idea is great, it really gives the person a lot of power.
Yeah, I think I was immensely grateful for all the support from family, from friends, everyone who was there from the start, supporting this pop-up shop, and then the shop that we had, a physical shop later on. And so I didn't want to give up on that.
I think it's Kanye West that says, giving up is harder than trying. Because there's so much that, like like starting a business is immensely hard. It's probably some of the hardest things you can do. But once you've got a couple years in, that's when like quitting is way harder at that point, because it's like
you
it
got
would be all for
history now,
naught,
yeah.
right? Exactly.
And I think my former business partner, because with her I could start this. No matter what happened afterwards, she decided to go to Tokyo, and I think without her it wouldn't have started like
Are you
this.
still friends with her?
No, we are not. I mean, we're not friends, but we don't
Just not as
talk
close.
anymore.
Gotcha. So with your shop, it's in Tenroku or Taniroku?
It's in Taniroku.
Taniroku, just to
Yeah.
fix that up and qualify. Taniroku, tell us a little bit more about the actual shop. Is it just a clothing store? Is it can I resell stuff there? Give us, what is the shop? What do you want the shop to be? Where does it go from here?
Well, first of all, it's in a building that is a bit boro charming. I call it. It's like falling apart, but it has its charm, and it's run by 2 architects who do a share office in the building. So it's a bit confusing for people who pass by. Can't figure out what it is really, but just recently, it's a bit complicated, but just recently I was able to move from 2nd floor to 1st floor, and there are lots of windows outside. So I hope from this month on I get a little bit more traffic.
Right, foot traffic walking by.
Yeah.
Boro charm, I think, describes Osaka.
Yeah.
It's a little bit falling apart, but it's nice. That's kind of
it's
describes
charming,
so
yeah.
much, yeah.
So, you started a business, and you said you were doing pop-ups, and then you finally got to a store. Let's talk about the process, all the nitty-gritty stuff. So when you're doing the pop-up, you didn't know like the direction that you were going, but like you were talking about the community, you had the support that was helping you to just keep going further. Like, what was it like when you first started doing the pop-ups? Like, were you nervous? Did you think you were gonna fail? What was the whole mind state at that time? Because you just quit your job. You're like, no, I don't want to do this no more. You met up with a friend, and you were like, yo, let's start this business. You know what I'm saying? The business doesn't just pop and then magic boom, you got a business. Like, what was the process like from transitioning from from going from your job into your pop-up?
I think the good thing was that my business partner back then, she was very she was afraid of risk, so we always kept it low risk. And we asked friends who had like restaurants or hair salons for an interesting way of showing our clothes, if you could just rent one day and then just as a win-win situation, have our pop-up there. And we did it just once a month, and it was really hard because she had to get her driver's license just for this. We rented a car, all these carrying things and lifting and
bringing all the stuff each time.
And all these clothes are so heavy, and we were like, from morning till nighttime, we were so tired. But we had our own other part-time jobs because that's the only way you can go. But yeah, I think her skill was like she was very practical and kept the risks low and was good with sales, and I was good at networking. So for me, it was the spreading the word and getting people to let us have spaces.
Little by little, your business just grew to what it is today, basically.
How many? You've been here 14 years. How long you been doing Hello Darling?
As a pop-up, it started 4 years ago, but 2 years as a physical shop.
So 2 years is only pop-up. Was there a point with the pop-ups where you came back from one pop-up and you were like, whoa, we sold a lot of clothes. Did that happen? Or because I think something has to happen for you to jump from pop-up to a physical location, right? I mean, the bills just with a physical location alone are so much different. So was there that type of moment, or was it just a very gradual, as Zane was saying, very gradual build-up? What do you think?
I think it wasn't even gradual. It was from pop-up to pop-up different. One pop-up was really good. One pop-up was a failure. And not knowing what target to attract, what kind of event would be the right event for us. So sometimes we never really fell into the red numbers, but we never really made that much money. And then we thought, but if we want this to be something, we need to open a physical shop. And then this place fell into, not the one where I'm right now. We were in Hinomaru first. And it just, it wasn't a very expensive rent. So we thought, if we don't try it now, we'll never know whether we can take it to the next step.
Yeah, I love that. You know what I'm saying? Again, it's just like persistence, determination, and just doing, I guess, because if it wasn't something you weren't like passionate about, you definitely wouldn't continue doing it. Do you have any advice to people who want to transition out of their jobs in Japan and want to start a business?
I would say not to try to make things perfect from the beginning. I still have to tell myself that. Sometimes I stop myself from moving just because I want something to be perfect, but nothing is really perfect. You just got to make mistakes.
Wabi-sabi.
And networking, just going out, even if you don't feel like it, just connecting with people. And there might be one person at one event who inspires you to do the next thing, and to be always open for new things. Knowing a little bit more, asking yourself what really drives you is important.
Super true.
Where to put your energy and where you don't know where to put your energy. Like figuring out very early what you're good at and what you're not good at. And if you're not good at something, how can you make up for it? Or can you actually change it and make it easier for yourself? So.
That's beautiful. Like, it's coming back full circle for me, where you were talking about your background being Kurdish and how the perception is like all the good and evil comes from you, and then the community aspect, how it's important in networking with people and how they can inspire you. What is the community you're building out here in Osaka?
And what would you think of the greater Osaka community?
Oh, that's really hard because, there are so many communities out there. And what I just want is to connect with people without putting people into boxes, like just from person to person and not from group to group.
T-shirt.
I just want to be able to click with a person, feel like I often work more it's intuition for me. I like the person, or
Same, right.
I think this might work. Sometimes I go wrong, but that's okay too, because you learn from that as well, and becoming a little bit pickier about things. But I feel my community. I think that's me a little bit. Going back to my family situation, I grew up as an only child, but I grew up in a very big family with lots of aunts and cousins, and I always felt I was a bit like Mercury. I always adjusted myself to everyone in the family.
Same, okay.
Yeah, and so I feel I'm still like that. I have so many different kinds of connections and different people in my life that I feel really grateful for that, because everyone opens up another little world, and I like to keep it that way. And as long as I connect with a person, it doesn't really matter what group or community they belong to. If there is a way to connect with every community on a human level, that's good enough.
So I had one more question before we don't take up any more of your time. How supportive is your husband in your endeavors? Because I think entrepreneurship in Japan, as we come to learn more and more, is extremely necessary. Innovation is extremely necessary for countries to grow, and typically that comes from entrepreneurism. So a country like Japan that is extremely risk adverse, a lot of people. Do you think it's easier doing what you do because you're married and you have another spouse that can? I don't know what your husband does.
Yeah.
Or do you think it's challenging, or what do you think of that situation?
Oh, definitely. I think he was such a big support from the beginning on, because if he hadn't let me quit my job, I wouldn't have had the space in my head to think about what I really want to do next. Because when you're in this spiral or like a hamster roll and you're constantly just moving, and even if you stop, it still moves for a while and you're still spinning. If you don't have that space to think about what you want in a place like this where you're limited in your options, then it's really important to have some kind of support. And he is basically, financially backing me up. But I want this to be something that we can both benefit from in the future. So,
Of course, right.
yeah. But yeah.
That's
Love
beautiful.
It. Love it.
All right, here, hold on. I just
Dozo.
want. She's been here for 14 years in Osaka.
Dozo.
What do you like about Osaka? What keeps
Tell
you
us. Yeah, 'cause you've been all 14 years.
Yes, true. I sometimes remember that I'm in Osaka. Like, I don't know, you just walk through the streets and you see a shrine and you're like, oh man, I live in Osaka, I forgot. But I like the vibe of the city. And I always feel like I discover something new. It changes a lot all the time. And
What would you recommend someone who's coming to Japan to see or like to do in Osaka?
In Osaka.
ooh,
Takoyaki.
that's so hard.
Don't put
That's
forward
hard.
stereotypes. Sorry, there's much more than octopus balls.
I don't know really. If I could show them my Osaka, I think I really, really like enjoying a good coffee, and I would take them to
Too many options.
too many options, right? Enjoying a nice view by the river. Nakanoshima area is nice for sitting down and stretching your legs.
That's where you was talking about.
Exactly. That's where I would love
Conrad.
to. Oh yeah, right by
Yeah.
that whole festival.
Oh, I think I'm really bad at like
Areas.
Shotengai.
Shotengai.
Tendoku Shotengai is
The
probably a
old
really
Shotengais,
it-
yes.
brings the story together, like all the cheap items you can buy and the people who are there and everything. But
Love it.
Well,
Love it,
thank
love it.
you, Seval, for getting on the show. I feel like I really want to ask, like, is there a personality type that just rubs you the wrong way? Because I feel like you say you're like Mercury, and you just adapt. Is there
Which
a personality
personality?
type you just don't get along with?
American military.
I think when somebody, a driving person, when they don't really want to talk, but they want to say something, but it's not about having a conversation, but just wanting to show what they know. That's something I don't know what to do with. Like I either want to have a conversation together,
Your intuition is like, huh?
Yeah, this guy's not
Nicole.
not letting me speak too much. No.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. Super
Thank
insightful.
you.
Seval, thank you
It
very
was
much.
so much
Guys, if you like
fun.
this episode, please subscribe, tell your
Yes.
friends. If you're coming to Osaka, connect with us, give us a message. We're happy to show you around or give you
If
any insight into the city.
If I may
Support-
say, I
she's not
really
done.
think, sorry,
Dozo.
I recommend this for everyone who wants to. I think it's cool to talk about your own business in this way because you might find something about yourself that you didn't realize. So a chat like this is really amazing. So
Hello,
thank
darling.
you guys.
Check it out. Tiny Roku, place for vintage
Thank
clothing,
you.
all that good stuff. Guys, thank you again to our sponsors, Tomo on the Deck here in Homachi, Osaka, Japan. Hinomaru, traditional Japanese attire in a modern sense. Edge Wilderness, bringing you some outdoor apparel. And Skyscape Kabushi Gaisha. We will see you guys soon on the next episode.
Hit that
of the
Patreon. Look at that
podcast
Patreon
Kansai
support. We need that support
Collective.
community.
Kansai
Darling.
Collective. West side of Japan, we out here coolin', ain't a nicer guy.